Were you raised Methodist?
Yeah.
What brought you to, I know it's probably a big question, but what drew you to Buddhism away from Christianity? Or did you not be drawn away from Christianity, or did you add Buddhism?
My father was very involved. In fact, my uncle was a Methodist minister. My father was almost a Methodist minister. He was a lay pastor, and incredibly compassionate man. Very involved in the community, would do anything for anybody. He sold insurance. And for him, it wasn't a business. He was really serving his neighbors. And I could remember there'd be a call in the middle of the night, and it would be someone who had a fire or an accident or whatever, and my dad was out. Middle of the night, gone. He'd be there. And it wasn't, again, a question of, well, you know, did you pay your premiums for the month? It was a neighbor in need. And it was a small enough town that almost everybody knew each other. And especially my father knew everybody and was intimate with their problems, you know. And, on that level, an insurance agent is like a banker and a doctor and a shrink and an insurance agent at the same time. So I had that feeling, that good Christian feeling of compassion and certain sense of grace that came along with that, which was extraordinary. But the ability to the wisdom aspect of really looking into the nature of the mind itself, and looking to the nature of suffering in a very different way. A more scientific approach to this. And Buddhism is essentially a science. The science of mind, and it has to be fearless. You have to really look.
I don't know anything about Buddhism, or very little about Buddhism, but Carl Sagan said, Buddhism's God is so great that he need not actually exist. Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, there's no creator in Buddhism.
Things just are?
There's no beginning. There's no beginning and no end. It doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, but it's ridiculous. So it's this sense of the mind itself is so vast, there's no need for a creator. We create it momentarily ourselves.
Before you left college to go be an actor,
yeah,
you studied philosophy at UMass Amherst. Did you have a favorite philosopher?
Bishop Berkeley.
Bishop Berkeley?
Bishop Berkeley.
What's his
thing was
hit?
subjective idealism.
Subjective idealism?
Yeah.
What does that mean? I think that this is the right thing to do, to hell with what you think?
In Tibetan, it would correspond to the mind-only school. And it's essentially
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. The what?
Mind-only, that everything exists only in the mind. Forget Buddhism. This is just science we're talking about, and how the brain works, and how we do not have an experience of the world. We have an experience of our previous experiences.
And we're just going around in a map that we've already created.
This is all a virtual world. The whole thing is virtual, based on our own brains.
Is this the Matrix? Are you Neo?
It is totally a Matrix.
I know Kung Fu.
My son and I talk about this all the time. This is totally a virtual Matrix experience we're having.
Well, is there an objective reality, Richard Gere?
No, there isn't.
There's no objective reality?
There is none.
Even one we can't see? There's just something there?
One.
But I am, you are, he, she, or it is. We're actually right here.
There's nothing in the mind that has a mechanism to reach out. All the mind can do is see itself.
You are blowing my mind, Richard.
Our eyes are lying to us. The surface of our minds and how we make value judgments are lying to us constantly.
What do you mean our eyes are lying to us?
We don't have a fresh moment of just seeing something.
The way a child sees its hand, like a baby is enthralled with its own hand.
Maybe, I guess you could use that. There was a wonderful, I'm going to be more profound than that, I think.
You go right ahead, Richard Gere.
No, there was something you've probably heard of, the Mind and Life Institute, and this was started by the Dalai Lama 30 years ago. Top scientists in all fields. And there's a guy named Richie Davidson who's been mapping the mind. And a couple of years ago, they were able to map the initial experience of the world, the event of something in the world, and using sight.
You mean the first time you see something you'd never experienced before?
Never experienced before, but it doesn't matter because what happens is the whole thing is clouded. Once you have an experience, the brain sets up a catalog, an area to take in that type of information. What you could see in this mapping was there is a moment where there's initial engagement with out there. We'll just call it out there. Then everything recedes back into the brain. Things light up inside the brain, and then it projects back out. The only part of that we're conscious of is the projecting out.
So we're actually seeing the projection of the reconstruction.
We're only seeing our own mind.
How do you stop doing that, Richard Gere?
You learn to meditate, basically.
Do you meditate every day?
Yeah, every day. But it's a way to...
How often do you meditate a day?
The morning, always in the morning.
Really?
And I don't know, minimum of 45 minutes, maybe a couple hours if I have the time.
At age 65, honestly, how much of that is you just falling asleep?
95%.
95%? Yeah. Okay.